I was asked a question recently that was something like, if you really knew how to live the life you've created, what would you do? And my immediate answer, or my first response, right, that's what we go with, initial response was, I would stop avoiding it. Which may sound really weird. And it surprised me, but that's what I went with, so that's what I explored, because I have moved to Mexico, right? I lived here almost a year now as I'm recording this in August 2026, and I have location freedom. I can work from wherever. I have time freedom. I can schedule my day. I can make my own plan and have control over my schedule. I don't have someone telling me this is when I have to do that for the most part. I have things that are scheduled, but I have control over how I spend my day. I, like I said, can work from anywhere pretty much as long as I have good Wi-Fi connection. I can go exploring. There's lots of places to go check out. What's the word I'm looking for? I can dive into photography. Again, that's not the word I was looking for, but I can meet people for coffee. I can travel, right? I can plan travel, improve my Spanish, mejorar, because I speak Spanish, but one of my things I'm focusing on is improving it. I created the freedom. I created and manifested the freedom I said I wanted. So why, I'm going to phrase this right. So I created the freedom I wanted. So why do I sometimes still live like I don't have it? Right? I mean, I paused on purpose because why don't I live like I have it? Because I do have it. And so what happens, my question now to you, after asking myself that, what happens when the life you wanted isn't like off in the future anymore? You've got part of it, or you're experiencing, it's like actually manifested or become reality because it's not someday anymore. So what happens when it's not off in someday land and now you have to learn how to live in this life? That's what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Rebel Manifestors Podcast, where we flip the script on manifestation by focusing on embodying the badass chingona already inside you. If you're done playing small and are ready to become the main character of your own damn life, estás en el lugar correcto. You're in the right place. This isn't about waiting for the universe to hand you a better life. It's about becoming the mujer living it. Through stories, journaling, music, visioning, mindset, and bold action, we'll rewrite the beliefs that have kept you stuck and step into the life that's been waiting for you all along. Your future self doesn't wait for permission. So vamos, let's fucking go. Hello, hola, and welcome, bienvenidos. This is the Rebel Manifestors Podcast. I am so excited you're here. So first of all, if you're new, I'm Patty. I am Rebel Manifestor, and I love to talk about becoming the version of you living the life that you desire. And I'm in a very unique position to be in the midst of that actual experience. And I say all the time, I haven't got this shit figured out yet fully. I am still learning and experiencing, and I think it's valid, important, responsible, and authentic to share my experiences with you guys, especially since manifestation and becoming and all that stuff are things that I talk about it's not just the highlight reel, at least the way I see it. I don't think it's only the highlight reel that should be shared, because sometimes it's weird and uncomfortable and disorienting. So to get back to the focus of this week's show or this week's episode, what happens when we create the freedom that we want? And I'm using freedom because that is a word I used frequently. I remember back before I had the freedom, I would often say that I don't have time to live my life during the week. I live my life on the weekends because my schedule was all over the place, initially made by other people. Like when I had a muggle job, like I like to call it, I worked as an insurance claims investigator. So I was going out to different places, and initially someone else from my office would schedule my appointments, go here, go there, so that schedule was made for me. And I was working in all of Southern California. So sometimes I drove a lot, sometimes it was close. And so I said I didn't have the freedom to live my life during the week. I couldn't commit to things and say I would be there for sure. I didn't always know when I would be getting back. And don't get me wrong, part of that I love. That was actually, I've shared in a previous podcast, I manifested the exact job I wanted. And then we grow and evolve and desire different things. And that was language that I used often. I don't have the time. And also what I say also often is that our words are spells. It's part of our manifesting because that's what we believe when we say the default things like that, or that's what we're focusing on, right? So I wanted, when I started realizing that I said this a lot, that this was something these were words that came out of my mouth quite frequently. I was realizing and fine-tuning when I took the time to evaluate on purpose, what did I want? What did I want the freedom for? If I said I didn't have time or I didn't have the freedom, well, what did I want it for? I wanted control over my own time, my own schedule. I wanted work to fit into my life as opposed to my life revolving around work and being able to only agree to things if I wasn't working or dependent on what work was. At some point, I had moving to another, just being like a digital nomad on my vision board, that type of thing, exploring, going to concerts, traveling to go to concerts, friends, doing social things, and all these things. You can create your list. What are the things? And if freedom is not the word that you use often, like you don't have the freedom, maybe you say you don't have the time. That is also a version of what I said. Think for yourself. What is it that you frequently say that you don't have enough of, or that you wish you had, or, you identify your own language. And then I started a business while I still had the muggle job, and I started learning. I learned basically in real time. I never went to business school or anything like that. And so building a business was also something that then became a dream and a desire. And a lot of times I realized I wasn't really fine-tuning what just a random day looked like for me, right? Just like a random everyday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. Not only the highlight reels. And so what I'm talking about, this isn't a story about discovering that I don't like the life I've created. I actually do like it. I love that I have manifested the freedom, and that I now live in Mexico. But there's a tension, I feel, with the question that I asked earlier. I have manifested the freedom. Why am I living like I don't have it? So that's where, at least in this moment, I have noticed and become aware that the disconnect is. Because I noticed that contradictions, that there's these contradictions happening that I'm experiencing, that I'm noticing, because maybe I'll have a random afternoon. I don't want to say off, but I have time. Like I have an open afternoon, and sometimes I will fill that time with working anyway. because that is something I used to do, like just work until the time ran out. And so if I'm done working with what I had set out to work on that day, but then I have this extra time, my brain defaults into, well, then let me just start on what I'm going to do tomorrow. Like working because the time hasn't run out yet. And it's like, what the hell? I wanted this freedom. I created the ability to work shorter days, less time. But here I am finding myself filling that time with default programming and working a lot of the times. And sometimes I would, like when I have those open times, I do say, okay, I should go do something. I can go explore. I can go check things out. But then what do? I will spend a significant amount of time researching, looking up places, finding, how far they are. I could just as easily go off and find out, go out and actually do the damn thing and figure that out, or find something along the way. Again, I feel like I'm like this, there's this disconnect. I'm realizing I want to do all these things, but I only do them when I think I'm supposed to, which is the weekends or in the evening or whenever I would have pockets of time before. So I do have the freedom over my schedule and can schedule, plan the hours I work, and somehow work still stretches out throughout the whole day. Now, some days that's great because that means I did other things in the middle of the day or I started later. But oftentimes it's not. It's because I'm, to be honest, like wasting time or trying to identify what to do or saying I'm going to get a late start, but really I'm not even taking advantage of a late start. I'm thinking about I should just start work. I should just start working. I should start being productive. I should, right? All these shoulds. So it's a very interesting dynamic. I have the freedom. I have the ability to work less hours, and I've manifested that. But then I still find myself filling it in with what feels like the expectation, the previous expectation, right? And here's the thing, not just the thing, but a thing also. When I moved to Mexico, I had a very clear awareness, right? Like I had the thought, even before coming here, that nobody in Mexico knew me. Nobody knew the old version of me. Nobody knew the version that had not manifested this freedom, right? Nobody had expectations of me coming here. There was nobody here when I got here, or even since, that was, oh, Patty works this time, or until this time every day, these hours. Patty behaves in this way. This is her typical routine. Patty goes to these places on these days and these times. Patty does or doesn't do these things. Nobody was here with a clipboard or anything like that. But yet, old Patty's muscle memory crossed the border with me. It came with me in my car to move here to Mexico right alongside me. Muscle memory. Yes, and I talk to myself. Like when I catch myself saying those things, I will talk to myself. And one of the things, I jotted it down because I thought it was interesting. I said, no manches, Patty, you moved countries. You didn't have to bring this shit with you. You moved countries, you did the damn thing. And there was no reason to bring this old programming shit with me. But yet, here it is. That old programming came right along with me. And so a question, because if you're new here, I love questions. I love asking questions to you guys. And I also ask questions to myself, or I develop them, or I realize something and get curious. Because I did work as an investigator. So I do have that inquisitive question asking nature. That does come naturally to me. So something for you to ponder as well, because I have been pondering it in my situation. How much of our old life do we keep living after nobody is requiring us to do it anymore? Nobody's requiring me to clock in and out. Nobody's requiring me to be at an appointment that they set for me. Nobody is requiring me to do these employee type things. And I have said that I left the employee identity behind. And on some levels I have. But obviously, since I'm sharing this with you, there are also ways that I still have that employee identity with me, that I'm still living that employee identity, that good worker identity, right? And that made me realize that sometimes we can create, maybe oftentimes, maybe all the time, I don't know, but we can create the new life, the one that we desire, before we have developed the muscle memory for living that new life. So we're still in that old muscle memory, like I am currently. And so I don't want you to think that it's only about moving countries like I did. This could apply to any new life that either you have manifested or a new season that is coming into your life. Maybe the start or end of a relationship and how those dynamics change. Changing careers, if that is something that you wanted to do or something that circumstances led you to doing or needing to do. Maybe retirement, right? I can't speak to that one, but I know people who have retired and then they don't do anything, at least initially sometimes, that they said they wanted to do, right? Or they don't know how to really go about it. They still feel probably kind of like how I am feeling right now, where they have to still fill their time with certain things or in an unexpected way. Maybe you want or you have started a business like I did, right? That's also very new. You have to learn new ways of thinking, new ways of approaching things. You are responsible for your own time, right? For, getting things done. Maybe you have grown children that have either moved out or are in school. And so this is a completely new dynamic for you. Did you move somewhere new, even if it's not to a new country? Again, either from circumstance or because you chose to and wanted to. Have you set a boundary with someone? Whether you communicated the boundary or not, you simply are acting on it. And that means that the other person or whatever circumstances for you, they're like, wait, what? That's not the normal way. And so do you feel yourself, which I can speak to, I have for sure, wanting to default and soften the blow and like, oh, well, let me give them a little bit of what they want, or let me just do it this time, let it slide this time. And then, do you find yourself falling into those old patterns? And how does that feel for you, right? Has the opportunity that you kept saying you wanted arrived and you're like, what the hell do I do with this? I don't know how to navigate this space because you haven't, like I said, developed the muscle memory. And then the thing that I said, and I write these things down because these are thoughts I either have or things that I actually say to myself. So it's like, oh shit, now I have to decide what I want to do with this time that I have, with this freedom that I've created. Because the old structure, the old framework may have been restrictive, right? Like, I don't have enough time for me, but it was also familiar. Now, I bet, and because I know, again, from experience and from working with other people, that dynamic exists in almost all change. We may not like the circumstances we're in. We may not like, our job, our life, where we live, anything at all. And we say we want something new, but we know what to expect in our current circumstances. We know how to navigate them, even though it may not feel good. It may not be healthy. It may not be moving us forward, but it's fucking familiar. And that's the thing. It's the unfamiliarity, because the new life, the new circumstances require us making choices and taking actions that the previous version of us, or in that familiar circumstance, we did not have to make yet or did not have to do. And this is how I describe that feeling, is disoriented. It's like, and I think that's where I find myself planning or researching. It's that disorientation. I don't know how to navigate this, so I'm going to look for some more information. I'm going to look for somewhere to go, because on some level that actually gives me a plan to follow. It gives me the directions to get there. It gives me the steps to follow. Whatever the case, it has some semblance of following a plan or a pre-existing circumstance. And yeah, I that's how I see it playing out. That's why I can spend so much time just sitting and scrolling or sitting and doing, because I don't know how to navigate the thing that I said I wanted. Whereas before, if I was going to go explore something or get lost on purpose, I still planned to do it, right? Like, oh, I have the weekend free, or I have this day free. I'm going to go do this free time thing, but it was a freaking plan. It was a freaking plan, and it was expected. And it's like, this is where I'm plugging it in to my schedule, if you will. So not everything, how sometimes we don't take action and we know it's from fear, like the fear stops us from doing things. It's not always fear that stops us. Not everything is, not all inaction is fear-based. Sometimes we just haven't practiced it yet, and we're so disoriented that we're like, our navigation system is on the blitz. Our GPS or our compass is like spinning out, and we don't have a direction to follow. And it feels very unfamiliar and disorienting. At least that's how I'm experiencing it. I always love your feedback. So if you're experiencing it differently, you have a different word, whether you've experienced this in the past or you're currently going through it, let me know how you describe it. How are you feeling in this transition point from the old version of you knowing what to do, even if you didn't like your circumstances, to having created the circumstances, or at least some of them, and you're like, well, shit, how do I navigate this now? And that's where it comes down to practice, and why I talk about becoming the person first before you have the experiences. Now, it's not going to mean you're going to feel exactly at home. I think anyway, there will always be some level of disorientation. Disorientation? Is that of feeling disoriented? But it really does help to practice being the future us now, right? And if you've been here a while, and if you're new, I will let you know, I use the comparison, like the analogy. I refer to the example of like the musician, the rock band, the rock star. I am not a musician. I don't have dreams or desires of being a musician, but I think it's something we can all relate to because we know the story of like our favorite band or our favorite singer, musician. And I've also shared that my first rock concert was like one of the most important, significant experiences or moments in my life. So music is very important to me in that sense. So, and Rebel Manifestor and the rock chick avatar, those are things I talk about. So that's why I use those examples. I think they're universal and they're just relevant to me as well. So even if you don't want to be a musician, I'm guessing that you will at least be able to relate or understand those comparisons. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm talking about practice. A musician or a band doesn't wait until they're actually scheduled or playing Madison Square Garden to start practicing. And I use Madison Square Garden because I love Bon Jovi, and they recently kicked off they haven't toured in a while, a new tour, and they started the tour. I think it was 5. I have to double check this guy. 5 straight nights at Madison Square Garden. And fuck, that's awesome. That's just amazing. So, but the band doesn't wait until they play Madison Square Garden to start practicing as if they are. They act as if, they practice, they get all the notes and the music and that muscle memory, right, of playing the songs, of singing, of putting their equipment together, whatever the case is. That's the muscle memory. They're putting that together, but they're practicing for like that big ass gig, that big dream. And that's where I would say that would be your big dream, whatever circumstance, whatever dream that you have. We develop our craft, if you will. We develop our skills as we're practicing in our current situation. It does build confidence, and we learn the stage presence, if you will, or we learn how to go about being this new version of ourselves. Because I would venture to say, I've never done this, so it's totally how I perceive it. Even though a band or a musician has practiced and they know all the songs, I would guess they probably still feel like throwing up before they actually take the stage on Madison Square Garden, right? For the first time. Maybe even later, I don't know. But so just have that awareness. Practice doing the things that you can practice right now as if you're living that version, as you think it would be, because we don't know since we're not living it yet, but as we think it would be. That is still developing the muscle memory and that confidence. So even though you know the garage is not an arena, you can practice as if you're playing in the arena or building up to playing in the arena, because we don't let our current circumstances determine who we're becoming. That is very true. Our current circumstances have not one damn thing to do with our future dreams and desires, right? It doesn't dictate whether we achieve them or not. Our current circumstances are our current circumstances. Okay, whatever got us here, but that has nothing to do with whether we can have and achieve whatever frickin' dream and desire that you have. And that leads me to one of my core premises also is the rock star mindset. And that basically is believing in your dream so much that it has no choice but to arrive. That's one very common version. But thinking about the Rock Star Association, think of how many bands have said this, when they tell their story, when they share their experiences, that nobody believed it was possible. People tell them, that's a pipe dream. You're never going to make it big. You're never going to be a rock star. If you watch the Motley Crue documentary and all the things, that's a very common theme. No other people, for the most part, don't believe it's possible. But we, the band, and then us for our dreams, we believe it's possible. This is key, believing in them so hard that it doesn't matter that other people don't believe in them. Not letting their disbelief dissuade us from believing. Yes, there's going to be challenges. Yes, there's going to be things that we have to navigate that we're not aware of, but believing, keeping that belief alive. And that's where the practicing, becoming, and taking actions as the future you contributes to keeping that dream alive. Contributes to that belief like, yes, I'm going to be living this for real one day. I'm doing it now so that I know how to, as best I can, step into that existence. Because maybe these little things, the little things that we do on a day-to-day basis are what will feel familiar in our new existence, right? So I'll give you an example because you're like, what the hell are you talking about, Patty? I totally get that. I use a lot of words sometimes. So like I said earlier, used to say, I don't have time. I want to do these things. I want to be able to work from anywhere. And so what I started doing when then it manifested, it became that then it went from other people making my schedule, my office, to us being able to make our own schedule, set our own appointments. So that was a step in that direction. And when I got that freedom, I still had the boundary or the safety zone, if you will, of the job that I had. I had expectations. I had XYZ things that needed to get done. But I started doing things a little different. I practiced because it still felt safe. And so what I would do is I would go to coffee shops to work. I would, on purpose, if I was, working at home one day and had no appointments to be at or no Zoom calls to be on, I would go to different places to work, different coffee shops. I'd sometimes go to a library. I found different places to go. And when I found myself in the rut of simply staying at home, that is always the first thing I did. I would go work somewhere else. And that is something I do now. That is something that is very familiar. I love checking out coffee shops. And oh my God, does Ensenada have an abundance of coffee shops? There's like all sorts of coffee shops here. So that is something I practiced doing before that I still am doing now on a different level, in a different scenario, right? I'm in a new country, a different country, but I still do it. And I started that back then. So that part is familiar. And doing things at home, like making nice coffees, like, frothing some milk, or nowadays I make my own coffee creamer. Instead of buying the store kind, I make my own coffee creamer that makes my coffee feel fancier. And all I'm doing it, I'm still making it a coffee creamer, but I made the coffee creamer and it feels really cool. And I've mentioned about buying nicer chonies, right? Which is undies, buying an up-leveled version of chonies to help you get familiar, to help you make it normal to do nicer things for yourself, to up-level the things that you have now. And so that then becomes a habit. That becomes normal when you then live the experiences, right? For myself, maybe reminding myself in these circumstances to actually take my camera with me, not just make a plan to go walk around the streets or a neighborhood when I have time, but actually taking my camera and having it with me so when opportunities come up, I can take advantage of them. And another thing I'm doing here to step into that is I'm reading Practical Magic in Spanish. Now, I've read the book before and I love the movie. And the reason I chose Practical Magic is because, one, a book club that I don't participate fully in, because a lot of times they're reading further ahead than I am. But I use the books that they recommend. Sometimes like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to that book, or I'm going to read it just at a different pace. And because the second movie is coming out soon. So I thought I'm going to do that. So that is a way now that I am intentionally filling up, that I have identified where I can fill up this time where I feel disoriented, right? But I have a foundation of going to coffee shops. So this is that mix, like that transition, the messy middle, however you want to call it, of, okay, I've practiced doing something, so you have that going for you. You can continue to do that in this new circumstance. And because I noticed I was feeling disoriented, I have things now I'm identifying that I can do to help orient myself. Dressing the way I want is something that I've leaned more into again. I used to do that more often before, when I was able to get rid of like my work clothes, because I was only working exclusively remote. I wasn't having to do in-person appointments or anything like that anymore. So I did more of that then. And then I got into a lull, which is also human nature. But like, you know what? I'm going to actually start buying things, because I got rid of so much when I moved to Mexico. I brought very limited clothes with me, because I was initially going to be at an Airbnb for 6 weeks and I would be moving again. So I brought very limited clothes, and I fell into that old habit of just like the basics, like leggings or shorts and a t-shirt. And that's cool. But also I've now but let me like style things differently. Let me wear things a little bit differently, not simply as default. And that's because certain things, accessories, clothes, how we style things can really help shift how we feel and can get us out of that default programming that is so easy to fall into, even if we've started making, taking steps differently in the past. That default programming is always there on some level, calling us in like, oh, just default back to this. You're familiar with this. You know that. So We have to make the choice on purpose. And so dressing the way I want, and that helps me feel the way I want to feel, kind of the vibe, mixed with local stuff here, right? So I'm buying things from here. I'm doing things differently, but I'm very intentionally not getting, oh, this would work. That is one of the things that I have really intentionally let go of. Instead of just buying something because I can make do with it, or because, oh, I can make this work. That is some programming I'm definitely letting go of. If I don't get something right away because it's not right, then I don't get it right away. I'm not going to make do with something because that's part of what contributed to all the shit that I did get rid of. Because it was something I made do with, or thought this would work, or maybe I can make this work, and really it didn't. It just took up space. So that is something that I've carried a realization from before, and so I practiced it, and now when I realized, okay, I'm kind of falling out of it, I can step into practicing it again. Because we never stop practicing on some level, and choosing a different way of doing things is a way of practicing. They are repetitions. And when you repeat these actions that you would be doing, that you envision yourself doing in the circumstances you want, you start developing this awareness, or the belief, or the thought, or however you experience it, that, oh, this is how I live now. Así es mi vida, right? This is how I live. This is how my life is. And you can choose those things over and over because you're practicing on purpose. So I'm not saying there won't be disorientation. I still don't know if that's correct. Disorientation. I mean, it should be right? But we don't have to stay in that. Because we've practiced becoming the version of us in the past, we know we can make different choices, and we catch that disorientation, and we realize, okay, this is old habits that I'm living and doing here, and I can step out of them by going to something I'm familiar with, like going to a different coffee shop. And that might inspire me, like it did. The example I gave you, it's like, oh, I can also just bring my camera with me when I do that. So then I'm like stacking. I'm stacking habits and experiences on stuff that I'm familiar with. So that is that grounding of familiarity in the new circumstance. So let me know if that went off track for you. Ask me questions, give me examples, because that is also great information for me for future episodes as well, and for questions that I can answer on social media or in a future podcast or anything at all. And so this practice that I'm talking about is really the foundation of manifesting me, which is also something I talk about. It is taking action as the us on a regular Tuesday or Wednesday in the vision that we have, right? And if you're familiar with me at all, and if not, I say this for all the things. You'll get familiar with it if you're new here. I'm big on visioning, whether that's vision boards or journaling and using the scripting method, just daydreaming on paper, or just allowing yourself to daydream. I am big on visioning. And so with that visioning also comes, how would I be doing that? What would I be doing in Mexico? What would I be doing if I had the freedom to live and work from anywhere? And one of the things that I answered for myself for that question back in LA was I would go to coffee shops. I would work from different places. And that's now one of my grounding things. I can do that anywhere and in any circumstance. And that's a familiar thing that I can carry with me as I up level. It won't necessarily hold me back or keep me stagnant. I can take that with me through all of my up levelings and new circumstances that I experience and that I create from now on. And the next step then, because it's like, okay, I've practiced, I'm doing all the things. And I talked about practicing in the garage for Madison Square Garden with the musician example. We can't stay in the garage forever. We actually have to do something that will then move us in that direction. Whether that's, I don't know how bands get hired to play at a bar instead, or to play at an event, or to play at a festival, whatever the case is. So we practice, but we have to take the next step as well, an actual tangible step. An actual tangible step. So, yes, practicing is good. Yes, it gives us a foundation and something that we can carry with us that will feel familiar, but we can't stop there, because that's not going to manifest our desire, because we have to play the gig. We have to take the step. We have to put ourselves in that circumstance on some level. And so my example of that, because again, I'm not here telling you what to do or I haven't done it or I haven't experienced it or it's something I haven't identified that I need to do. My example of doing that is taking the leap to going from working full-time in that insurance muggle investigator job to going part-time. I had, yes, started building my business and working on things, but I didn't have super consistent income that I could say, yes, this definitely replaces the part-time hours that I would be losing. But what happened was I said, this is the time. I need to go part-time. I'm serious about this. I'm going to do the thing. And shortly after I said I'm going part-time, I was given, or the opportunity came up for me to work as an independent contractor for the Sisters Enchanted. You may be familiar with them. It's a fabulous place and a fabulous, company organization. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about business, about becoming, about all the things there. And so I had worked in the sense of like filling in as a presenter or as a substitute like teacher or something for the community. But the opportunity came up for me to be an independent contractor for them. And that was the thing that filled in, that bridged the gap, if you will. And so up until then, I had been doing things for my business and building them. I had, I was on social media. I was doing workshops. I was making products like a challenge and the playlist, and I was going live on social medias and things like that. So I was doing things. I was creating. I was definitely learning along the way, and all of those things mattered. That was part of the practice. That was part of the practice of being in the, practicing in the garage. But there came this moment where I had to change the dynamic. I had to change the structure, and it was going part-time, and then the opportunity presented itself. And I don't want you to hear that and say, oh, I have to earn these opportunities. No, for me, I see it as like, I am committed. I am taking a step that stretches me, right? Because it's not about proving that you're serious to the universe. I actually wrote that out once and I'm like, no, that's not it. It's not that I prove or have to prove anything. So know that that's not what I'm trying to get across here. But at some point, our desire is going to ask something of us. We have to take a different step, a bigger step. Something has to actually shift. And so the disorientation, no. Because I didn't feel the disorientation. But the distinction, I guess, yes, the difference I want to leave you with, that I really want to communicate, and I want to see how it feels for you, right? And for me, because this is, if we were sitting across the table, this would be a conversation. The action, so me going part-time, you fill in your action that it might be. The action isn't payment. It's actually participation in the dream, in the desire. We're participating with it. Now that we've done some practice and got some muscle memory under our belts, now we're participating. We're moving. Here's a better description maybe. The more steps like that we take toward our dream will move closer to us as well. And that gap that needed to be bridged, I didn't know that was coming. But I moved closer to my dream by going part-time. I created that space, if you will, energetic space, time space, whatever. I created that space. And so here comes the opportunity because the space was created for it. Again, let me know if you need some further explanation or if you want me to dive into that a bit more in depth in a different episode. So it's not that we're earning it. It's like we're participating and moving closer to our dream, saying, yes, I've got some practice and some becoming under my belt. I know it's not exact, but I'm going to move closer to it because our dream does require us to take action. It requires something of us. So that feels true to me, that if we take steps in that direction towards a dream, it will also move closer to us. And then there are times when the participation, if you will, that step doesn't work out, right? It's not leading to the exact thing. And I shared about this recently, but it's still relevant. I did, I guess it was a couple of years ago now. I was still in Los Angeles. I saw the opportunity for a call, an open call for people to be in a music video for the band Extreme. The band Extreme is a band I like. And so when I saw on social media, it was going to be in Los Angeles, they had the date and all the requirements, and I was like, I could do that. And a prior version of me would have said, oh, but I don't have anyone to go with me. Like, oh, I don't have anyone who goes with me. No one really likes them. None of my current friends, it's not their thing, or they don't have the time, or whatever the case is. Prior version of me would have just said, oh man, that would be fun. That would be really cool, but I have no one to go with. But what I did is I did apply, hit the send button on the email or the Google form that they had. And their requirement was the first, whatever, like 50 or 75, however, 100 people, the first in order would be included or get the call back. And so I was simply outside of that window. So I did hit the send button. I did apply. I was willing to go to the location, had the whole, they said you need to have like the whole day free. I was able to do that, but I wasn't selected. But something still happened. Even though I didn't get the chance to be in the video, something happened. And that something is, in that moment, I became the person who applied instead of saying or wishing that I could have gone. I would have been fully there if I had been within this selection, but I became the person. I took a fucking step as the person because I did apply. And that's a huge shift because now I know and I believe because I have evidence, because I've done it, I don't have to have someone to go with me to do things that are different or that sound fun or that I want to go try. And just for a little bit of context on that, I have also shared before how I was always fine with going to do things by myself that were designed to be by myself. If you like going to eat by myself, going to the movies by myself, doing things like that, I had no problem being by myself. I was being by myself, right? Now going to new activities, new events, going to something like this, I would always have this desire. I want to do it with someone. There's a safety there as well, like a wing person, a wing friend, if you will. And so that in that moment, I became the person who was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go by myself. I can do this by myself, even though I'm going to have to interact and, it's like an actual event with other people and it's different than simply being by myself. But I did it. I said, fuck it, and I hit the button. And I became another version of me in that moment by hitting the send button, even though I didn't get to be in the video. Because the manifestation isn't only what happens after you take the action. So after I hit the send button and not getting to go. So the manifestation isn't always what comes right after taking the action. Sometimes it is the manifesting taking place in us. It's manifesting something in us through taking that action. And that's just amazing. That's a whole layer of manifesting and manifestation that I had not really either been consciously aware of or knew about or anything like that. It was like, holy shit, I became the person that does that. So, important note, freedom doesn't mean optimizing every damn minute, taking it back to my old conditioning. I created the freedom, I manifested it, I took the steps, and I have the freedom to do the things I want. And that doesn't mean that I have to take advantage and be productive every minute. That is old programming. I am now intentionally, that I'm aware of, so that I can intentionally do something different. Because we can know all the things. We can know in our head, we need to take steps. We need to do this. We need to believe. But they're not actually going to happen if we don't experience it, if we don't live it, if we don't know how it actually feels to take that step. So for me, it's realizing having a free afternoon doesn't mean I have to be productive in that afternoon. I don't have to optimize it or become more productive and take it, do things ahead of time. Because I have now also found times that I have the time to take a nap now, or just watch random, TV shows earlier in the day instead of just at night, right before I go to bed. And I can take adventure days with friends and, take a day trip, a day trip to Rosarito, which is what I did a few weeks ago. So I'm doing it, and there is a little disorientation, and also more and more I'm taking advantage of those opportunities, and I much more quickly am realizing when I'm stalling, when I'm avoiding living that life that I have created the freedom to live. So I don't have to use my freedom productively. Damn it. So I don't need to check in with myself. I don't need to justify how I spent my time to anyone. I don't have to use my freedom productively. Puedo hacer lo que quiero. I can do whatever I want. And so I realize that I don't have to justify, but a good way for me to check in with myself is to ask, did I choose how I lived today? Or did I let the default choose for me? And the default could be habits, programming, thoughts, beliefs, anything like that. So you can ask yourself that question too. Did I choose how I lived today? Did I choose what action I took toward or as future me? Or did old current conditioning choose for me? So, yeah. Choosing slowness for me, choosing free time that's not productive is not avoidance. It's actually taking advantage of what I intentionally manifested. And know that this can feel fucking uncomfortable. Like, oh my gosh, I should be doing something. And then realizing, well, no, I don't. So having this back and forth in your head, it feels uncomfortable to step into that new existence because we've never actually experienced it before. We can practice some things, but we've never experienced, like the band, stepping out on Madison Square Garden stage until we fucking do it. Until we do it, we haven't experienced it. So it's important to develop the practice and the muscle memory so that we have that capacity to navigate these uncomfortable spots, these things that we don't know how they're going to feel until we're actually there, but we can get through it because we have practiced certain things. So, yes. So to wrap up my episodes now, I have some components. I have my manifesting me moment, and this is where I invite you to evaluate, kind of check in, and see where you can take action as future you, where you can do something differently. So think about something that you once wanted or daydreamed about or set an intention for that is actually now not in the someday realm. You have some level of it right now, some level of the freedom, or all of it, or some of the money, or whatever it is, something that you once wanted that you're either starting to get or that you've gotten. And choose how to reframe the old habit, the old conditioning, right? You already have it. You can already take advantage of it, and know that that means something's already changed. You've already become a different version of you because you took different steps, because you took action, because you changed a belief or a thought pattern. So something has already changed. And so are you living like it's available to you? Or are you still living in the old identity and acting in that old familiar habits, existence? Are you bringing those habits to now? So be aware of that. And then where are you still waiting for permission to act or to participate in something that's already actually possible for you? You already can do it, but you're not. So this is an awareness. It's never it's never saying that it's a judgment or to criticize yourself. But when we're aware, that's when we can more intentionally choose differently, take different steps. So my Rebel reflection is the next one. This is a journal prompt or a thought prompt. If you want to talk it out and record yourself, that's another option as well. Think about it while you're driving, whatever works for you. And the question is very similar. Where in my life am I still living by rules, habits, or limitations that my current life no longer requires? So this is where you can go deeper once you have that awareness. So to say it again, where in my life am I still living by rules, habits, or limitations that my current life no longer requires? And then there's the Rebel Challenge. This is something I bring because taking action is key. So I want you to choose one small act of participation. Something that you can or that is available to you now that you've been thinking or treating or acting like it's still part of future you. Like, oh, I'll do it someday. I'll be able to do that when. Something that you would fill in that sentence with. Choose one small action and do it now. Like when I went to the library or to coffee shops to work while I still had my muggle job. What is your version of that you can practice now? And go do it. Put it on the calendar if you need to. Make plans with someone, whatever the case is. Because it's available to you. That's how you start practicing. Not because it's being productive, not because you'll check a box, but because it moves you closer to the version of you living what you desire, what's on your vision board or in your daydreams. Because this is your life and you're allowed to participate in it, not simply follow other people's expectations. And the last bit is the Rebel track. I share a song with you that you can either listen to and let it inspire you. Maybe you can listen to it before or during, you do the Rebel Challenge. You can journal to it. You can listen to the lyrics and see what lands. And so this week's song is What Are You Waiting For by Nickelback. And I'm not choosing that song with the thought or the message of hurry up, you're behind, get your shit together. But with the focus or looking at it instead of what am I waiting for before I let myself participate in the life that's already available to me. And there's something you can do. There is something on some level that you can do and participate in your life the way you choose to. And so, yeah, you can play this song while listen to the lyrics, and you can journal on it. And if this is something that is landing with you, if you're like, yes, I want more of this, if the idea of becoming and manifesting me is like, ooh, I want to learn more about that. I want to do more. I want to dive a little bit deeper or explore this a little bit more. Manifesting me with music is a challenge that I've created. I'm actually in the process of coming up with a more aligned name. But for now, it's called Manifesting Me with Music. And this is where I combine music, journaling, and I use the scripting method that I teach or that I share in the challenge, and taking an action. It's 30 days. Listen to the previous episode. It's not designed to be done in 30 consecutive days. It takes as long as it takes, because sometimes some prompts require a bit more time to process or to, get the courage, develop, it's like, I'm going to do it, and talk yourself and psych yourself into doing it. And sometimes the prompts will bring stuff up that you need some time to process and be like, holy shit, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that I had that thought or the belief. So it's a challenge, and once you get it, you have lifetime access to it. You get any new changes, upgrades, additions that I make automatically without having to do anything or pay anything extra. And it is designed to help you take action. 30 separate actions, 30 separate experiences to help you become the next version of you. And one of the beautiful things is that you can do this challenge over and over, because we are different versions of ourselves all of the fucking time. And so maybe sometimes you just want to randomly pick one, or maybe you want to go through it for your birthday every year or once a year or something like that. It is available to you forever, as long as it exists online, on the internet, whatever that looks like. So you have lifetime access to it and anything that comes with it. If you have questions about it, please feel free to comment or send me a DM or anything. If you're on my email list, you can reply to any of my emails. And so that's it. I am in the process of learning to establish new habits instead of falling on default ones, and I hope that you are inspired to do so as well. I'm Patty Diaz, Rebel Manifestor. We don't wish for a better life here. We become the person living that life by breaking free from those old patterns and establishing new ones. I'll see you next time. Rock on, Rebels. Hasta luego.